Welcome, and thank you for joining our workshop today to learn how Houston Independent School District empowers their scholars with Renzulli Learning student-driven project-based learning. My name is Rita Mauro, and I have been with Renzulli Learning since 2006. I will be monitoring the chat and the Q&A for any questions during our workshop, and we will have time remaining at the end for any questions that you may have to be read and answered live. I now have the honor and the privilege to introduce Tia Locke-Simmons, Director of Gifted and Talented for Houston Independent School District. Thank you, Tia.
Thank you so much, Rita. It is my pleasure to be here. I am quite excited about sharing information with this team on the work that my team has done. I'd like to first start by reintroducing myself and the team who supported us on this venture. I'm Tia Simmons, and I am the Director of Gifted Education in the Houston Independent School District. We also, on our team, leading the work of empowering our students through project-based learning, had Ms. Renee Riga. We also, as you know, we partnered with Renzulli Education, and Rita Mauro was our spearhead partner in conjunction with Tony Kabusek with Renzulli. Today, we would like to just start by having everyone to share with us who's in the room so that as we work forward and collaborate and continue collaborating with one another, you all are aware of who's in this partnership as a future resource. So if you would please, let's find out who's with us. Using the camera on your device, please scan the QR code and let us know who we are collaborating with today and in the future regarding project-based learning. Once you scan the QR code and enter your device, enter your information into the device, we will be able to see who's with us, and you will use that as a future tool. I'll give everyone just a moment to scan that QR code. We will scan a few other codes to make sure we have the opportunity to interact with you virtually. So our agenda today is a 3-point focus. We want to look today at the process, the product, and the promise. The process, the product, and the promise. So one of my mentors, Tony Jones, is an artist, and she expressed her thoughts on the pandemic and students in this painting entitled The Pandemic. While our expressions varied, they still are much the same. In truth, we all know that necessity breeds innovation. The pandemic became a household term, and parents became full-time educators, and students became responsible for using technology on an ongoing basis, not just when teacher directed or at their own leisure. Everything changed almost overnight. What did not change was the expectation for us to serve our students. So as our process began, we brainstormed, and we had to quickly brainstorm as quickly as the pandemic arrived. And our thoughts had to be meaningful and yield possible outcomes that would engage students at every level. And what was most important to our team was innovation, student-led learning opportunities, and technology. And so as you look at the Wordle, I'm going to ask you to take just a moment to think about implementing project-based learning in your district or on your campus. What do you think would be most important to frame the ideas and brainstorming in with your team? What are your big 3 thoughts? As you think about elevating the student engagement and the student-led products, what are the 3 important focus areas for your team? Please share with us. Scan the QR code so that we'll have the opportunity to see what the trends are that are common to all of us as we focus our teams and our teachers and our support on student-led instruction and project-based learning. And I'll give you just a moment more to scan that QR code. Awesome. Let's talk about the process again. Another part of the process was framing it in our high yielding focus areas, which are your big three, and then looking at what our needs were. As we looked at our needs, we wanted documentation of differentiation. How are we maintaining evidence that we have differentiated instruction for our gifted learners? What opportunities do we have that are technology based? Because our students and our teachers were working from home. And as we move to train and support the instruction in this way, we want something that we can sustain through asynchronous and synchronous learning. It was also important that we were able to implement a gradual release through the process. Is there an opportunity for us to have teacher-directed activities and instruction that could be rubric-based, aligned to the TEKS? I'm in the state of Texas, so aligned to the learning objectives in your state, and still allow us to release the learning to the students so that they are able to take ownership and bring in the innovation and the creativity and the critical thought necessary for project-based learning. It was also important that we were able to meet the need of student-centeredness. How do we engage the students on multiple levels and still have it to be individualized for each learner's skill set and interest and ability? We wanted to make sure that we had an opportunity that could ultimately become student-led and student-owned. And we also needed a feasible transition. As my team talked about this, it seemed like so much that we needed, and we wanted to bring it into one package, because this sounds like a lot to ask your teachers to quickly learn and implement. Here's what we found. We found that everything we were looking for would be delivered in our partnership with Renzulli Learning. This is the platform that worked for our district and our gifted students. We continue to build on this. And some of the best features that we have found with Renzulli Learning are its ability to design and deliver both asynchronous and synchronous learning. The gradual release model is absolutely there, and we'll talk about that today. We also have opportunities for student leadership and for all of their information to be individualized, tailored to them, and to meet their individual needs. It's quite an intuitive experience, which allowed for that feasibility that was critically important for our team. There we are. So our first steps. We immediately, as educators, of course, thought of how do we educate the masses. So we partnered with Tony to deliver professional development, not only to our educators, but to our students and our families as well. We had virtual webinars. We also worked with our IT department to make sure that we were able to have single sign-on. The single sign-on access is very, very important to our students, from our student voice and from our parent voice, so that they're able to access this through their normal district logons. And then we needed to be able to communicate the benefits and the ease of use. By communicating the benefits and ease of use, we had to make sure that that was experience-based for our learners, for our parents, and for our educators. And if your colleagues are anything like mine, the most important question is, what's in it for me? Well, I'm glad they asked. I would love to share with you some of the most important benefits that we were able to have our team to experience. And by team, I mean our learners, our parents, and our educators. I'd like to share information with you on the student profiler, the enrichment library, the activities library, and the project wizard. While there are a multitude of benefits available, these are 4 critical points I would love to share with you today as you take home information to process with your teams. This is an example of a student profiler. Today we'll talk about a fictitious student by the name of Rita. I wanted to share this with you so you can see what your learners will see. First of all, they receive a congratulatory communication from Renzulli about their personalized enrichment. Imagine the power of a student immediately understanding that this has been personalized explicitly for them based on their own skills, preferences, and their own goals. They also have the opportunity to engage in critical thought. They complete the profiler in about 20 to 25 minutes. But there's also additional opportunity for your students to participate in open-ended questions that deepen the tailor and personalization of this learning experience for them. Once they've completed the profiler, if you will note on the third arrow, this system will also maintain a historical library and reference point for each individual student on the sites that they visited, their favorite activities, their self-assessments, and even lessons developed by their teacher, and of course, their project wizard work, which is the greatest opportunity of all. Among more than 50,000 resources, Renzulli is able to tailor the learning experience to resources explicitly for your individual scholars. The screen you see before you has quite a bit of information. I have brought your focus with the circles to certain points. This is a benefit for everyone. Your teachers will have access to this, your Renzulli administrators have access to this, and of course your parents and students can see it. Based on a 20 to 25 minute interaction, we are able to receive this Renzulli learner profile for each of our gifted scholars. It lets us know what the scholar's primary interests are. And here we see that Rita is interested in photography and movies and creating videos. Her second area of interest is aligned to social action and moral and legal and philosophical issues. Her third area of interest is in the performing arts. So she enjoys music and dance and drama. She also enjoys directing and managing plays and design sets. So now we have her first, second, and third learning interests. We also find out about her instructional style preferences. We see here that Rita enjoys working in groups. That's her primary interest. Her secondary interest is learning through games. And then she also enjoys working with peer tutoring. We also find out what Rita's interests are in product development. We can see here, again, from a 25-minute interaction that can be done from anywhere that Rita has internet access. Her first choice of product development will be in the written format. She enjoys writing articles and stories. Her second product style is going to be aligned to audio and visual displays. And then her third product style is speaking. And so imagine the power of your teachers when we look at pairing and grouping our students, providing differentiated instruction through content and process. We're able to look here and immediately know which of our students enjoys group work, and we can put them in groups with assigned activities and learning opportunities. We also can vary the content by understanding what their product preferences are in the process. We're able to differentiate and we're able to document our differentiation through this platform, all based on your students' 25-minute interaction with answering questions for the Renzulli Learning Profile. Now, again, from over 50,000 resources, we would not want to oversaturate our learners with 50,000 resources. So here is an additional benefit that we've enjoyed is the Tailored Enrichment Library. So from that 50,000 total, more than 50,000 resources, we've been able to pare down a personalized tailored enrichment library for Rita with these activities that you see before you on the screen. I think it's very important to note that we're able to attend virtual field trips, and these will also be aligned to Rita's skills and interests that we've learned through her profile, and the system automatically collects this information and develops this learning library, this enrichment library for you. We also have critical thinking opportunities and projects and independent study. Rita enjoys written format, so we see a lot of reading opportunities for her to engage in written text. We also see the research activities. It's been pared down to 116, which will all be aligned to the information in her learning profile. My favorite one of the icons in the Enrichment Library is the contests and competitions. You see here that Rita has the opportunity to engage in virtual contests and competitions with her peers in her class, her district, and even globally, as Renzulli is operating in multiple countries. And this is an opportunity to broaden the horizons and interactions of our learners. Again, maintaining the personalized activities by subject, I'd like to note that you can align these activities cross-curricular. And then, do you remember that Rita was into video and photography, that she enjoys the performing arts and written activities? So you'll note in this opportunity, you see the writing activities that have been tailored for Rita. You see the performing arts, you see the video photography, and we also see the social action because that was one of her interests. Although these are tailored specifically to her interests, these are also tailored directly aligned with the content and the learning objectives. So your teachers will be able to plan individualized lessons that are still aligned with the learning objectives and your district's scope and sequence and curriculum, without having to do any additional work from the sense of your teacher planning. They simply can align the lessons and they can create it in a group, a whole group setting, a small group settings, or independently, or they can simply develop rubrics that have certain deliverables and expectations for the learners and give them the charge to go in and lead the instruction their own way and bring back specified learning objectives and evidence of the learning. Now, once we have moved our students through understanding the use of their personalized activities and their enrichment library, we also had them to look at the project wizard, and I'm excited to share some evidence of our students' submissions through the project wizard today. Important to note in the project wizard is that each of your students will go through the planning, finding, creating, testing, and sharing phases. Through this 5-step process, the students are able to, based on the learning objectives they are to be aligned to, or if this is an independent opportunity, the project wizard guides them through the planning steps to make sure that they have a robust plan and a clear identified plan of research or investigation that they want to conduct. It also will guide them through the process of finding appropriate resources. It will then move them to the creativity phase, and it is in this phase where the product is actually created and developed and finalized. There's also a need for them to test their product and to share their product. Again, I'll share with you how our students were able to share their work district-wide and with the global community access in Renzulli. Everybody in research understands the value of reflection. We also want to ensure that our learners understand the value of reflection. The reflection component of this opportunity for investigative research and product-based learning allows our students to reflect on what they have developed and presented to their community, to also reflect on the state of their presentation. Is it in its final state, or have you discovered additional investigative research as a result of what you have completed? This is a critical point for all of our learners in the gifted community. Let's shift and think about the promise. As you look at the graphic before you, bear in mind that our professional and moral promise to scholars is to educate them based on their own needs. And we can give each of our scholars the same supports and still not meet their needs. We can also give each of our scholars what they need to overcome barriers, and the barriers may still exist. We can also do everything in our moral and our professional web of influence to remove the barriers that facilitate learning challenges and put our learners in the space where we're facilitating learning experiences that gives each of our scholars ownership to learn from exactly where they are and transition them forward at an accelerated pace that fits their needs, that recognizes and acknowledges the meaning that they make with their learning, what their learning goals are, and it can all be still aligned to the learning objectives in your state and your district's state scope and sequence. So as we think about how to frame the liberation of a learning experience with our teams so that our teams are moving forward with the mindset of liberating the learning experience, how would you sum that up for your team? If you could pick 3 words, just 3 simple words to frame and remind your team of the importance of liberating the learning experience so that our students are free to be innovative and creative while demonstrating mastery of their concepts learned. What words would you use to remind your scholars? I'll give you a moment to share on our interactive collaborative space so that you can see the Wordle and see from your peers in the Wordle with you what the common trends are. And you might even find some great ideas that you would like to take back. I'll give you just a moment to share your ideas in the Wordle. Please click the QR code. Thank you all for sharing, and I hope that you remember to access that for future reference as a continued collaboration space. Again, with the promise is that the scholars carry an innate promise in their hearts and their minds. They promise to rise to the occasion when inspired and challenged. So it has to be also our promise to inspire them and challenge them. I'd like to share with you some of the results of our students who were inspired and challenged through this project-based learning. Our students showed their learning leadership and their promise to rise across grade levels. Here you see an example from work of an elementary student and one of our graduating seniors. You'll also see that in the virtual world, we also send yard signs home to celebrate their project-based learning and their submissions of their videos. Also through this platform, you see here an example of some of our young students leading their own collaborative teacher-assigned group. So the teacher was able to assign them to a group, and these students have been inspired and are leading and facilitating the collaboration themselves. And so we saw a distinct rise in our student engagement. We also worked with Renzulli to create the platform for their first ever virtual GT Expo. Please do not hesitate. I encourage you, whatever vendors you are working with, do not hesitate to work with those vendors to build exactly what you need. That's what we were able to do, and Renzulli responded to the challenge in an overwhelming way. And we sent the yard signs that you see here. We also had a lot of social media work that from the parents, they themselves and the students shared on social media platforms. We also were able to, again, bring everything back to student interest. Our scholars were able to independently initiate projects based on their personal interests and their future ambitions. And you see here examples from students who have an interest in fashion designing, veterinary science, and business. The focus areas, the research, the interest alignment, the learning objective alignment is limitless. With this process, we also saw a surge in innovation and excitement in this world of technology. Let me share a video with you of our students.
my God, that can't be right. Well, I want to do that. Sorry, girl, I gotta call you back. My sister has another idea again. I have an idea. What is it? You know, Mommy's always cooking meals for us. And we should make a meal for her. That sounds like a total plan. We can make it in a pressure cooker. What's a pressure cooker? I'll tell you that in a minute. Okay. A pressure cooker is a tool that is used to cook food really fast. How does it do that? It uses water as a heat conductor. It's like magic hands pushing down the heat so it can make the food cook faster. Also known as pressure. I gotta see this to believe it. What are we gonna cook with the pressure cooker? Something that everybody loves. Ooh, chicken. Sounds like a plan. How much liquid do we need to create enough pressure? I hypothesize we probably need 1.5 cups, 3.5 cups, 2 cups. What's hypothesize? Hypothesis is like a prediction or an educated guess. Let's test it. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a meal in the pressure cooker. And we need to see how much liquid we need to cook a whole meal. After we do that, then we'll taste it. 4 chicken thighs, 1.5 cups of rice, and 2 cups of chopped veggies. In conclusion, 1.5 cups was not enough to make enough pressure. And the rice was really hard. It sounded like this. 3 cups was enough pressure, but it made the food really mushy. Basically, too much pressure. So what were the results? Wow, it came out perfect. 2 cups was just right. Now for the finishing touch. Just a little bit of parsley to make it look extra. See? Science can be delicious. Come on, let's try it. Very good.
No, I'm good.
I'm like smelling the air.
Excellent. I am so excited and inspired each time I see any of the videos that our scholars did. As you can see, this was an example of our scholars who were focused on a science lesson, looking at the effects of water pressure, and they were able to incorporate their theatrical abilities as well as their culinary skills. And it became a family project. And so we are very, very excited. We continue to be excited about this information. I will also I can share in the chat when we're done here, the link so that you can see more videos from our students at various grade levels. We also, along these lines, worked with our students on Flipgrid, and it was a district-wide project-based learning activity for Hispanic Heritage Month. And we used a choice board that allowed students to select their area of interest, what they wanted to present for Hispanic Heritage Month. And this allows us to bring, again, as this video here demonstrated, real world experiences and life activities into the learning process, directly aligned with the learning expectations and deliverables. Again, we'll be happy to share. Houston ISD is featured on the Renzulli site with the platform that they developed in order for us to be able to successfully implement a virtual expo of project-based learning. So what you really want to know are the numbers, right? In a 60-day period, 60 days, we had 49,527 student-initiated activities on Renzulli. While we were concerned about training our teachers and giving them ownership, our students took it and ran with it. 50,000, can you believe that? Students can initiate the learning, and we've shared about that. Your teachers can also assign activities or use rubrics to guide the expectations of independent learning, or even facilitate collaborative learning experiences for your scholars. This opportunity is limitless. All we have to do is inspire our students, provide them with the resources, and they will take it and run to the hills with it. We're excited to share this information. We want to hear what your questions are. I know that Rita is answering questions in the chat, but we would like to also take a few minutes to offer some live questions. And we would also like to stay in touch. Here is our contact information. We're excited to share our experiences and our ideas and exchange ideas with you, because I know that you all have some very powerful information and ideas and feedback for us as well. So here's our information. Again, my name is Tia Simmons, and I serve as the Director for Gifted and Talented in the Houston Independent School District. Renee Rica is the Senior Specialist who led the work on our GT Virtual Expo for project-based learning. And then we have Rita Mauro, who works with Renzulli Learning as their Regional Sales Manager. She is answering questions in the chat. She partnered with us every step of the way on this. And then we have Tony Kabusek, who also works with Renzulli. She was our partner in educating our campuses and our community. And so at this time, I do want to say, Rita, thank you for responding in the chat as you have been doing. And then I want to also hear from you of any questions that we need to answer for the good of the group. Thank you all for sharing this time with us in advance. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Rita. If anyone has any questions, you can please put them into the Q&A that you would like to have answered live. I'd be happy to read them, and we can answer them for you, in addition to the chat as well. But you can use the Q&A to ask any questions. Tia, I'm not sure if this is something you would be able to do right now, but Brandy No is asking if you can share your choice board. Is that something that you have available that you might be able to share?
I can.
Or we can send it to her. If
I can send it. Ask it, will she put her email in the chat?
Brandy, please give us your email and we will be happy to ensure that you receive that. Do we have any other questions that you would like answered? Thank you, Brandy. We have your email now.
Okay, I'm sending that email to you right now, Brandy. Rita, is there any information that you would like to share to make sure that I give the full scope of the capacity of Renzulli with our project-based learning?
I think you did such a phenomenal job in terms of your experience and what you personally did. And I think one of the comments was just how brilliant and wonderful the experience and the project that the Under Pressure really demonstrated the value of what your scholars experienced. I think you've covered all of it. Our global collaboration allows our students to work with students around the world and create projects and invite students or join collaborative groups in other countries, as well as Tia said, within your own district, within your own school, or within our country. But the availability of students learning about other cultures, and during this pandemic, the opportunity to share feelings of what children are experiencing, and it doesn't matter where you are in the world, to be able to share the feelings that students have and to understand that we're all going through the same thing. And that has been something that's been very powerful as well. Kim Kayak, we can certainly, Tia, please note Kim's email. She would also like to have a copy of that.
Yes,
We will
ma'am.
make sure to send that to you, Kim. If anyone has questions or you think of something after, I will be monitoring our booth. There is a video chat that's going to be available throughout the conference. So if there's something that you think of that you would like to discuss further, that you may not be thinking of now, you know, please visit me in the booth afterwards. Any direct questions to Tia, anything you want to know with regard to how Houston handled any of their scholars or any of the things that they did? We don't have any other questions.
Okay. Is Deanne still with us?
I am, yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Thank you. And Cecilia, I see your comment. Absolutely. I encourage you to work on such an activity in your district. The planning was such an ease. The resources are in the multitude. And again, as you could see on the data that we shared, almost 50,000 student initiated activities in a 60-day period, 60 calendar days too, not 60 school days. So I was overwhelmed with the response and the engagement from our students.
The other
Does
thing
it require Rita, this is the question Kim wants to know, does it require a yearly prescription or is it per student?
It is a yearly subscription, and we will determine if it's more cost effective to do it per student or per site. And that's something we can certainly discuss. The other thing that I would add is that, and I think Tia touched on this, during the pandemic, what has been extremely powerful is because of remote learning and because we don't have the opportunity to necessarily meet our scholars if we haven't known them from previous years, that profiler affords the opportunity to get to know your students in the way that it would organically take you anywhere from 3 to 6 months if you were face-to-face in school. So it has been extremely powerful in really closing that gap of not having been able to actually meet your students face-to-face and giving you that snapshot of who they are and how they think and their learning styles and interest styles and expression styles. So that has been extremely powerful.
I think that our students really benefited from being able to have a sense of freedom and ownership and choice with the learning. I think that has been one of the greatest points, is that they had choice in the learning. Although we had opportunities for their freedom, their clear, liberated freedom of choice, they also had choice with specified learning processes, learning objectives that they're required to focus on and demonstrate mastery, but they still had an opportunity for choice in that learning experience and what their product or their content or their pace would be.
Excellent. Tia, we have a wonderful comment that's a nice segue to what you're saying. Amy Ferrara, thank you. This is not a question. I just wanted to say that the Scholars Pressure Cooker video was a perfect metaphor for meeting a gifted student's needs. Not enough pressure will cause the student to be undercooked. Too much pressure will cause the student to be overcooked. And just enough pressure will be just right. Thank you for sharing. I applaud that as well.
Yes, that is wonderful. That is an excellent analogy. Thank you for sharing that. That's an excellent analogy for our teachers in helping them to understand rigor, and that rigor does not mean more. We encourage them to work deeply and not to pile or try to overwhelm the students with the number of tasks that they have to complete. That's an excellent analogy. Thank you for sharing that.
And we have from Cecilia Kuvas. She's asking, is this program specific to our highly capable students or for all our students? That is a great question. The pedagogy is based on, based on gifted pedagogy. Joe and Sally have spent their life's work with Renzulli Learning and the school-wide enrichment model. So the program itself is based on gifted pedagogy, but through the years and through the research, what they discovered is that every student has a specific natural gift and talent. And as educators, it is our responsibility to afford them a platform where they can unpack and develop those talents. So Renzulli Learning is for all students, as challenging and as advanced as they are and wherever they fall on the spectrum. And we are implementing it for all students.
I will say that from my seat, I worked to secure Renzulli Learning, and my team and I worked to secure Renzulli Learning for our gifted learners. Because as I went through the brainstorming process and shared what our thoughts were as we were trying to understand how to best serve our students in the virtual environment with something that we could also continue with once we return to brick and mortar face-to-face learning. I found though that many principals were calling, asking, can we have this for all of our students? And so we have building principals who once they have engaged in the platform and in the processes that we were using, wanted to use it for their students who receive special education services and their students who are receiving general curriculum. So it works across skill levels and it works across grade levels. So in my mind, this allows me to work vertically and horizontally to meet various needs. It's just that my singular focus was finding a resource that I could mobilize for my gifted learners. But my building communication coming back has been, can we have this for all learners? And so of course, I support them with their next steps for securing it for their campus. Great question. And I'm going to send them, I'm going to try to put the link in the description here so that they can access the choice board from here. Is that okay, Rita?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Do we have any other questions? Thank you for, we've had some nice comments on, this is amazing. Thank you very much. It's been amazing to have the opportunity to work with Tia and Houston. We've had such wonderful things. Oh, and we have Lori Kirsch here to all panelists and attendees. Thank you, Lori. And she said, Lori used Renzulli Learning when she was with Hillsborough. And she said, yes, all kids love Renzulli Learning System. Thank you, Lori.
They do. Do we have any additional questions? Okay.
So I think that is, if we don't have any other questions, I think that we can wrap up, and we thank you so much, Tia. Thank you all for being here. Tia, did you want to say anything else?
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your time. And we shared our contact information. We welcome your feedback and engagement and exchange.
Yes,
Have a
thank
great-
you so much.
Have a great rest of the conference.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.